I'm Bridget Pairaudeau. I'm the Tech Director at the Institute of Physics Publishing, and just while I get myself set up, I want to talk to you today about resilience. So I have to say, I've done a lot of presenting in my time, and this is the first time I've done it like this, sat on my own, in the dark, in my kitchen, with no audience. It's actually really difficult to do this, but I'm going to do my best to keep going. The good thing about it is I've got myself a glass of wine, so I'm hoping that's going to get me through. So perhaps that's a good segue actually into what I want to talk about, which is resilience. How we find it, how we keep it, and how we build it into our tech systems. I mean, 2020, crumbs, what a year it's been so far. I mean, for everybody, everyone in the entire world, but I think if you've got a responsibility for technology, then we've really had some challenges this year. We've had to work out how we get everybody to be able to work from home at scale for an extended period of time. We've had to face huge uptick in cybersecurity incidents. There's an enormous amount of pressure on our markets, and we know that we're going to have difficult times ahead. And I think everybody, myself included, have felt the pressure of well-being and mental health challenges for ourselves and our teams and the people we work with. So resilience is something that's incredibly important and something that I think it's worth spending a bit of time thinking about. So I'm going to talk about what I think about it, my hypothesis on it, and I have to say, full disclosure, there is nothing new here. I think everybody's probably heard the arguments, and I haven't got anything new to say to the theory of it, but I hope I've got something interesting to say about how we practically tried to respond to some of these challenges with the tech team that I work for. And if it's not interesting, it's a virtual conference. You can just go read your email and nobody will know. So sit back and enjoy it, or go read your email. So here's the hypothesis that I have. The first, there's two sides to it. So the first side is that tech is complex. And what I mean by complex is that you can't just go and work it out. It's not necessarily logical, and it's not cause and effect. It's really, really difficult to know what the right path is. And the only way you're going to find out about that right path is to do experiments, to try and work things out, probably fail, get things wrong, try again. That's one side of it. The other side of my hypothesis is that staff engagement correlates to quality. The best indicators that we've got to know that we're doing good technology is that we've got people that are happy in their work. So putting all that together, what I wanted to talk about is how you get resilient technology by first building a resilient culture. So I'm going to talk about just a few of the things that we've been working on. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was resilient organisational structures. So what I mean here is, in order for people to feel engaged in their work, you have to have the right kind of structures and the right culture around them that supports that engagement. And the way I think about this is, and this is really from my experience, is that there literally is nothing in the world that upsets techie people more than bad workmanship. And if they're in a bad place, you can guarantee that they'll be doing bad work. So what are the sorts of things that we've done to try and create those spaces where people feel like they can do good work? Well, the first thing that we did was ditch projects. Maybe not completely. I do accept that projects sometimes are a useful construct, but most of the time they're just not. Our customers don't really care that we're working on a project called Project Wizard and we wanted to get it done in this particular time frame. Actually, what they care about is having resilient, good products that do what they expect them to do. They want to come to our websites or whatever service it is that we're providing to them, and they want it to work, they want it to be performant, they want it to just be there. So we've got rid of this idea of projects, and instead we've created product teams, and product teams are there permanently. and their job is to look after the product and really make sure that that product is doing what our customers want it to do. And that's working really, really well for it. It's taken away the pressure of working to deadlines that don't mean anything to developers. And actually, it's given them a space to work in where they can actually focus on what matters to the customer. The next thing that we've done is we made our problems visible. Now, we really dug down the back of the sofa, pulled out all of our dirty pants, and we put them in front of everybody. And we said, look at this mess. These products are not going to withstand the way that they need to hold up for our customers. They've got security holes, they've got resilience holes, they've got performance holes in them. All of these problems are making our products not good enough. And we're going to put them in front of everybody, and we're going to show you so that you will give us the support that we need to get these problems fixed. And actually, just by doing that, just by talking about it, making it visible, making it obvious, we've been able to really influence the way that our product roadmaps have been put together from a technical point of view, so that the quality of our technology has improved massively just by being able to have that dialogue. The next thing that we've been working on, and this is a really tricky one, is reducing the work in progress. Absolutely obvious to everybody, but we just weren't getting things finished. We were trying to start so many things, we were spreading ourselves so thinly that we weren't getting anything done. So we've really, really narrowed down the amount of stuff that we try and start. And by doing that, and by actually shortening our planning horizon, we're actually getting a huge amount more done. And that's been incredibly valuable within our organisation to demonstrate that we can get things done. Shortening that planning horizon really for us means that we only talk about the next quarter's worth of work. 3 months worth of work is about all we'll plan for. And we do our planning all together. Every single product team, and I've got 10 product teams working on this, every single team meets for a whole day and they go through all of the planning and they thresh out all the dependencies and they talk to one another and we get it all thrashed out and we make a commitment to doing 3 months worth of work. When we started doing this, we were getting about 40% of it done, I would say. And that's because most people were trying to cram in 8, 10 things into that quarter. Yeah, we can definitely get that done. And we definitely get that done. Because that's what everybody wanted to hear. They were desperate for us to say that we could do it. And the fact was we couldn't do it. So we've narrowed it down and we've narrowed it down. And now we're getting to the point where most of the teams are committing to maybe 3, maybe 4 bits of work in a quarter. But the important thing is they're doing that work. They're meeting those commitments time and time again. And having that cadence where we can prove to the business that we can get things done is having a huge impact on the way that we're seen as a technical team. And that's really great because that's creating a structure where the people that are working in that structure feel really valued and they feel like they're really delivering things that have an impact and that we're guaranteeing that those things are getting done. The last thing, as I said, there's nothing new here, is releasing often. We made a commitment to releasing often probably a couple of years ago, actually, and it's taken a huge amount of effort for us to get to a place where we can actually release all the time. But now we can do it all the time. We just really taken down the risk factor on making those releases. So instead of building up all of the anxiety about doing a big release and knowing it's going to break and knowing that things are going wrong, we're just putting things out day after day after day. Very small amount of risk, value going out to customers all of the time. It's basic 101, but it really, really works. So what have we learned? Well, I'd say one of the first things we learned about setting up these product teams and getting them all to work together in this way was they did go a little bit tribal to start with, which I think is quite natural because we wanted the teams to really bond with one another. We wanted them to be these permanent structures that had an identity, that really cared about what they were doing. which kind of meant that they didn't really care about what anyone else was doing, which caused a bit of an issue. But actually, that's kind of okay. It's kind of okay because they've got these really strong identities. We've put some kind of management layers in place where people are talking to each other better, and we're doing a bit more coordination between teams, and it's okay. But it was definitely an interesting side effect of setting up strong teams. I do believe in strong teams, but it's just one to watch. The other thing that I definitely would say that we've learned is that taking away the kind of comfort blanket of doing projects was quite a challenge, and we did have to earn the trust of the people around us to say, actually, we're not saying we're not making commitments, and we're not saying we're not going to get stuff done. In fact, actually, we're trying to do more of that. But you've got to show it. You've got to really demonstrate that you can do what you say. And so for us, getting that cadence of the delivery quarter on quarter, we're going to do this thing for you and we're going to get it done. We're going to do this thing for you, we're going to get it done. That's been enough to earn some trust and carry us forward. But there is a pull. There's definitely still a pull back towards a kind of more of a project mindset. But again, that's okay. It's a work in progress, as all of this stuff is. The last big lesson that we learned was about that releasing often piece. Without automation, without having the technologies in place, without deploying a pipeline that you can operate automatically, you're just not going to get there. And that was an investment. And actually, it's an investment that you make that doesn't show a lot of return to people outside of technology. So, they had to trust in us to get that done. Now we've got those structures in place and we can release often. Everyone's really happy, but maybe with hindsight, we should have probably socialized a bit more of that more up front. But hey, that's a lesson learned. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was a resilient culture. So once we've got these teams, the really nice, high-performing teams in place, how do you get them to really perform? Well, we've done two things, I'd say. The first thing that we've done is we tried to give them some interesting things to do. And the second thing that we focused on is making it really safe for them to work together. So in terms of interesting challenges, we've really committed to making time for innovation and for learning. And that's been hugely important. If you're not doing this in your organisation, if you're still stuck in that mindset that says we've got so much BAU to do, we've got so many commitments, we can't possibly make any time for innovation, we can't spend any time learning, we can't spend any time training, we can't spend any time experimenting, then you're really, really missing a trick, because it's been absolutely transformational for us to get involved in what is now quite a formal process around doing 10% time. I would say it's had one of the biggest impacts on our culture as a technology team, because we're now finding time to experiment with technologies that we simply wouldn't have known are out there. And if you're not investing in your people, if you're not allowing them to experiment with technologies, then they're just dying inside. And so it's really had a huge impact on the way that we think about ourselves, the pride that we have in our work, the way that we can now show that to people and get other people involved, and we collaborate with other people in the organisation. We show them what we're doing, we show them what's possible, and we're doing that regularly. Some teams do it every sprint, some teams do it once a quarter, some teams collaborate with other teams. There's lots of different ways of doing it. We don't insist on a particular methodology, but we do insist that they take time out of their day and they actually spend some time doing some learning, and we do insist that they show it back to us. But it's really had a huge impact. So I'd absolutely urge you to do that if you're not doing that in your organisation. The next thing that we've spent a good part of this year talking about is psychological safety. It's so important that teams are open with one another. They can challenge one another. They can talk about anything, and they can show each other when things go wrong, and that's okay. If you don't have an environment where you can do that, then you're holding yourself back. And we've learned some really important lessons on this stuff. On the learning time, I think we probably could have got some more organisational support for it. Obviously, we're a tech team that sits within a much wider and bigger organisation. And yeah, I would say there's been a few raised eyebrows about what are you up to and why are you doing that? But getting people involved, showing them what we do, and actually showing the return on that. So we've brought quite a lot of these new technologies into production, and some of the new ways of thinking, we've brought those into production as well. And that's really gained support. And actually, we've had a couple of, I would say, significant breakthroughs in the way that we think about a solution to a given problem off of the back of some experiments that we've done in learning time. And that's really, really helped with our ability to get support for doing learning time. As far as psychological safety and learning goes, I would say for both of those, you really need accountability. So it's not about being nice to each other, and actually it's not about having a fun time. It's actually about being able to hold one another to account and being able to ask the difficult questions, but feeling safe to be able to do so. So do it, but hold each other to account to do it. And that's really all I wanted to say. I did want to put in this photograph because this reminds me that I used to work with people and that we used to have a really great time together, and having that bit of fun and spending time with one another, caring about one another, getting that engagement from staff is really where you're going to find that you can dig deep and get that resilience. So the last thing I wanted to show you was this. This is me actually showing you our dirty pants. That first table was the dirty pants slide. That was all the stuff that was going wrong, and that was a horrible place to work. It was a really difficult space to be in. It was very demoralising. There wasn't a lot of pride, and there wasn't a lot of engagement. And without that, you've got quite a lot of poor technology going on. So where we are today, far from perfect, lots and lots of challenges. We've got lots of legacy technology still to deal with, but we're in a much better place, and we know what we're doing, and we've got some pride in what we do, and we've got a good deal of support, and that is much more resilient than where we were before. So I guess I'll just finish on that note and say, I really believe in this stuff. I really believe that if you invest in people, if you invest in teams, and you find resilience within yourself, then you will find that your technology will follow. And that's it. Thanks very much.